the number one thing to stay in business is to get paid, right? I know it's sales and all this other stuff, but you can have all the sales in the world and you can do all this awesome work, but if you don't get paid, you're not going to be in business very long. My name is Jose Moreno. On this podcast, we discuss current and future trends in the electrical industry. Welcome to the life of an electrical contractor. On this podcast, we discuss current and future trends in the electrical industry. Welcome to the life of an electrical contractor. All right, guys. So today, what I wanted to do was I wanted to discuss on a subject that is it took some time for me to learn, and even now, I'm still a student of it, and I'm actively practicing what I'm going to speak about, and more importantly, I'm constantly evolving how I use these tactics and ultimately how they get implemented, right? All right. So the subject I'm going to talk about today is getting paid, and it sounds very it sounds like it's a common sense, right? What do you mean getting paid? Like it's getting paid for what I do, right? I mean, what's so hard about that, right? What's so difficult about that? Why are you gonna make an episode about that? And why did you say that? Oh my God, you've learned so much and everything, and and how you are constantly evolving how you do this, right? So when I'm going to talk about getting paid, it's not like if you work for someone or you're working somewhere, and chances are you're getting paid on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, right? That's not what I'm referring to. That's probably another subject, not saying it's not important, but what I'm going to talk about, what I wanted to shed some light on and give you some of my insights, some of my lessons I've come across and that I'm constantly using is as a contractor, right? From the perspective of a contractor, how do we get paid, right? And not just an electrical contractor, any type of contractor, and for that sake, a business owner, some type of service-based business, right? How do we get paid, right? Because obviously, getting paid is a very important part of this process, right? I mean, if we don't get paid, then we can't pay our employees, and we can't pay perhaps the materials we buy, and in reality, what it's going to mean is if you don't get paid, you'll be out of business, right? That's it. That's a simple thing, right? But let's dive into a little bit of this, because the idea of getting paid just makes sense, right? Like, what do you mean? Like, what do you mean getting paid is difficult? Or what do you mean getting paid requires an episode from a guy who wants to tell me on how to get paid, right? So if you've been in contracting, whether you've been in contracting for a year or you've been in contracting for 20 years, you're most likely have encountered challenges in getting paid, right? And I'm not speaking. This is another full disclosure thing here. I'm not speaking about you as an owner getting paid, because that's a whole nother topic. I'm literally just discussing you as a business, right? Your business, whatever that may be. You delivered, you created you have a service, or you created some contracting of some sorts, and you delivered something of value, and now you are ready to receive that value back, right? Whatever that change is, that's what I'm speaking about. That's the type of getting paid I'm going to refer to in this episode, right? And the reason I wanted to talk about that was because, when I got into business 15 years ago, I thought it made sense. I do something, I get paid, right? I mean, I saw my bosses do it. What's so difficult or intricate, or my God, it needs lessons or this and that into actually fulfilling this process, right? But what I quickly learned was that it all matters, right? Obviously, getting the job is important and performing the job is important, but if you don't get paid, it's going to be equally as important, because if you don't get paid, you won't be able to do more of that, okay? And then it turns into a game of survival, and it's really hard to grow in a survival mode, right? But let's dive into a little bit. So some of the ideas I'm going to share with you are on getting paid, and they're totally based upon, I guess it's based upon you following through on the business end of things, right? Meaning like it's basically versus the mechanical area of things, right? Because obviously getting paid, I'm going to talk about after you've already delivered, right? You did something, you said whatever you were going to do, you did already. And now that's what I'm going to discuss, right? So number one, because I'm just going to get right into it. Number one is billing. I mean, it sounds simple, but a lot of the issues arise from billing, invoicing improperly, right? Perhaps you didn't put the right description. Perhaps you didn't put the date. Perhaps you didn't put the date that it was actually the service was performed, or even worse, you didn't bill, right? And then you're like, oh my God, I forgot. And then you submit it, right? These are all issues, because how are you going to get paid if you're not actually invoicing, right? Now, if you're in a service-based business and you're billing on the spot, that's awesome, right? Because you're most likely going to get paid in the spot, right? Again, our business is not on that. We do work, we do service and contracting work, but we do it with private companies and public entities as well, right? So invoicing on the spot for us, while some places do these things, it's not something we do. It's not what we do at all. So it's very important that we submit our invoicing, our billing in a proper time base, right? So now what does that mean? If you have service-based teams, right? It's going to be important that these guys, your teams that go out there, whether it's you or other people you send out to these jobs, it's going to be important that they are descriptive on their work orders, right? And that they have the proper information in there. Okay, like what day the task was performed, where was the task performed, the dates, what material, who asked for it, right? These are all important things. Why? Because and then of course, submitting this sheet. Because a lot of the times what we find here in our company is that the work orders don't get submitted in time. And then all of a sudden we get like 3 of them, and it's like, oh, wait, what's this for? This was from last week. Why are you getting this now? Now we have to like jump through hoops, get this thing in. And once again, it becomes difficult to get paid, right? So remember, once your service team gives you gives you these work orders, now your internal team, whoever that may be, has to set this thing up, has to properly code it, and then obviously send it out to the proper party, right? So then they can review it and approve it for payment. So that's on a service-based process, right? What if it's a contracting-based process, right? So in a contracting-based process, most likely, again, speaking from our experience, we're on jobs that we're there for months, right? So we're able to bill or invoice once a month, right? And it's important to know what that once a month date is, right? And it's going to be crucial that your PM is in contact with your foreman to understand where they're at in that process, right? What work has been done? What type of see what these payments are called? They're called progress payments, right? They're the invoicing that's done. So basically it's based on progress. So how would you be able to invoice bill on progress if you have no idea what's happening on the job, right? This is where that communication has to take place, and it has to be active, and it has to be, you don't just bill for yesterday. You have to also, depending on how the company you're working for is based, you're probably billing towards the end for the completion of the month, but the bill goes in about a week earlier. So you have to know these things, right? But once again, knowing the date is important, because what if the date is the 20th and you submit it on the 21st? They might not accept your bill, and that bill might not go through till the following month. Now what? Getting paid is an issue. And listen, I'm not going to make a conversation about cash flow. I'm just trying to get I'm trying to get some points across on actually getting paid. But every month you have bills. And this is why it's important to get paid, because every month these bills get paid, clients pay you, and that's the interchange, right? That's the process that goes on, right? That's where that cash flow is important, right? But if you're not handling your end of it, it's real difficult. Your cash flow will dry up really quickly. So Once again, right now, the intent is to get you to focus on how you are billing / invoicing, right? Whether it's on a service-based job or on a contracting job, right? It's important for you to know how these things are happening, and whether it's you doing it or someone else in your organization doing it, it's important that they know, and that you, in whatever form you're at, whether you're your manager or you're a president or whatever, you still need to have an idea of how these things are happening, because guess what? It's real easy. Everybody has a life. Everybody has things going on, and sometimes things happen and things get forgotten, and then guess what? Later on, you're going to get upset because something didn't happen when you could have just simply asked. So don't erase yourself from the equation. You still must be present to all these things, even if you're not directly the one invoicing on these particular jobs, all right? So again, you have not gotten paid yet. Okay, this is just you handling the process, right? Of actually getting your stuff out in a timely fashion, in a means that you can hopefully get paid in 30, 45, 60 days, depending on how your payment cycles are set up, right? And hopefully you understand that. All right, second one, very important. You did everything. You invoiced, you billed. It's dead on. I mean, the stuff is good, right? Here's the second thing that I've realized people don't do, and what we didn't do. And now it's helped us by actually implementing this. It helps us get paid, right? It's following up. What does following up mean? I mean, if you're in sales, you obviously know what following up is, right? Following up is something that I used to argue with. Why do I need to call this person and tell them that, and remind them that they owe me money? But I realized that, like I said before, everyone has a life going on. Everyone has things going on. I don't know what they're going through. And if they forgot about my bill, maybe it has nothing to do with me, and it has to do with something that's happening to them. But once again, I used to not want to follow up. I used to be like, no, don't follow up. A long time ago, we figured out that, you know what? That's not working. That's why we started using this follow-up technique, right? So what does that mean? You send the invoice, you send an email right after. Just checking to make sure you receive this, right? Or if you mailed invoices, if you're still mailing in invoices, send an email afterwards, right? Another way of doing this is making sure that in your follow-up that the right person received the email. See, sometimes if you start working for a new client, you send an invoice in by email and then they don't respond, and since you didn't follow up, it can be a month, 2 months when you're like, hey, what's going on? How come you haven't paid me? And it turns out like, oh, I don't handle billing. Oh, why didn't you tell me that 2 months ago? Oh, I forgot. Well, you see, following up could have avoided that 60 days of you not getting paid. And more importantly, you creating stories in your head on why they're not paying you, right? So again, not every case is like this, but it happens, all right? And in some other cases, it also has to do with perhaps that company that you're working with has more than one vendor, right? And some of their jobs might, who knows, it might be taking up all their attention. And while your job is very important and your bill is very important, guess what? They've been focusing on some other vendors' stuff and have completely, unfortunately, not paid attention to yours. If you don't follow up, why would they even look at yours, right? You're once again expecting someone to do what they're supposed to do, right? But guess what? Get out of that notion, follow up, be like, hey, did you get that bill? Hey, did it get processed? Hey, did it get approved? You see, those are three things. Did you get the bill? Did it get processed? And did it get approved? See, if you don't have those three answers in your follow-up calls, then that means you need to keep following up. Why? Because unless those three things are clearly answered, the chances of you getting paid are really slim. And once again, the idea is to get paid, right? Friendly reminders of due dates, they help as well. So let's say you got all three things and the due dates are coming, right? hey, you know what? It's the whatever your invoice is due next week, or your invoices are due this Thursday, and it's a Monday, sort of say, right? You send out a friendly reminder, just making sure that the check is going to be out in in this week's check run, or whatever the case may be. Who knows? Once again, is opening the door of communication. So that person who is in charge of that, writing that check or that ACH or creating that payment for your company is going to be what? Is going to have to go look at where your invoice is sitting in their queue, which most likely is going to help you get paid, which is the number one thing to stay in business is to get paid, right? I know it's sales and all this other stuff, but you can have all the sales in the world and you can do all this awesome work, but if you don't get paid, you're not going to be in business very long, okay? So make sure you start practicing these things, right? Invoicing, following up. All right. Those are two of the very, I don't want to say simple, because they do sound simple now that we've been doing it for so many years, in a disciplined manner. But they were difficult at the beginning to do, When you're at the beginning, it's like you forget to bill on time, right? And even worse, follow up, right? But now I wanted to talk to you about a little different, when things kind of go a little sideways, right? So in my opinion, this is a typical process that works, right? And again, this is just based on my experience, right? And you may be doing this and you may be saying to yourself, well, why the fuck why am I not getting paid if I'm doing all this stuff, right? See, the next part is you, right? See, now you've done the billing. You've done the following up. You're still not getting paid. This is where things get hard, because now you're like, what's going on? What's happening? And this is where the uncomfortable thing has to take place. And that uncomfortable thing is getting on the phone. And that means you got to get on the phone, or whoever is in charge of collections for your company has to get on the phone, call the right party. Can't just call a secretary, because you're going to be wasting your conversation on somebody. You have to get to the proper party who is responsible for this payment and ask them, what's up? I know it sounds simple. What's up, right? But the idea or the intention of this phone call is to open up that communication that somehow has closed up. Okay? Because you getting paid would have been that part of the communication. Remember, you did a service, you did your stuff, you did your billing, you followed up. Getting paid would have been that return, right? Well, that payment didn't come, so that return's not there. That means that conversation has to have somewhere along the line shut. Now you need to reopen it. And it's going to be very important that you don't do these things. Don't go apeshit. I get it. You're pissed off because you haven't gotten paid. It will not help. You getting pissed off and yelling will not help. Okay? Leave your emotions at the door. I'm telling you this after I've gone through that already. Of course, I went ape shit. And guess what? It didn't do anything other than get me upset at a whole nother level, right? And obviously, probably once you're upset, you can't even do anything else, right? So you have to understand that you got to leave your emotions at the door. This is business. Okay, this is business. And at this point, like I mentioned before, you have to re-engage, reopen the communication by calling and asking, what's up? We did our parts. Did we not do something? Did we miss something? Is there something else I can do? I just realized you haven't paid. What's going on? Use all of your senses in this conversation, in this level of communication, because it's going to be critical on you actually getting paid, right? Now be careful here. Now you have to speak to your make sure you contact your attorney or whatever, just on the next things. But very important is be careful. Don't stop work. Okay. Because I'm not sure how that could be associated to your contracts that you have. So you have to be careful stopping work, right? You have to be careful pulling material out, because again, that's something that could be in your contract. So once again, you have to be careful with these things. And even worse, do not don't get into vandalism, because these things could actually completely backfire on you. So once again, like I said, you know what? Check with your attorney. I'm not an attorney. I'm simply speaking from my experience, and I doubt that he or she is going to recommend you to do those things, right? But once again, it's use your senses, okay? Understand that you're trying to open the communication once again, all right? Because ultimately, what the whole goal here is to get paid. And at this moment, you are not getting paid, so you need to once again re-engage the conversation to find out, okay, what can I do now to get paid, to satisfy this situation? Okay, so now, number 2 in this case, because that's number 1. Number 2 is send all your past due invoices via email once again. Why? Because you're trying to refresh everything in their mind again, right? So it's basically a follow-up. Basically, just like in the first version where you invoice and then you do a follow-up. Well, now that things have gone a little strange, right? You do a phone call, right? And then you do a follow-up directly after that. You send all your invoices again. Why? To just refresh everything that just happened in that conversation. And also send everything certified. Why? Because you just want to make sure that for some wild reason, everything is getting there, right? Whether it's certified or FedEx overnight, whatever, just make sure that you want to make sure that there's no way that one of these invoices is somehow getting lost through the matrix or through some Pony Express somewhere. All right. So now I get it. You still haven't gotten paid, right? Which gets me closer to this next tactic, right? Or this next strategy, so to say, right? So you spoke and your conversation went well, right? Here's the other part, or here's sometimes what actually happens. You spoke, all right? You spoke to the person and the conversation went well. Everything went well. You guys were able to communicate. The communication is open again. You still haven't gotten paid. So, I mean, I'm not here to paint you rainbows and all these stars. Okay, shit's real. You still haven't gotten paid. What do I do? Okay, what do I do now? This is when you start to think, what now? What now? So I've been in these situations. Okay, this is why I'm telling you this. I've been in these situations, and obviously we're in business, so we obviously go through these situations every now and then once again, right? So here it becomes vitally important for your paperwork to be in order. If your paperwork is not in order, if your billing was not done in time, it becomes difficult for you to stand on anything, all right? Now, another area that used to, at least I used to be hesitant was to speak to an attorney, right? I thought speaking to an attorney was like, most people don't like going to the doctor, right? So speaking to an attorney is like, but this is when it's important for you to have those relationships, right? Most people say you go to a bank, you ask for a loan in good times. You don't go ask for a loan in bad times, right? Because you go to a bank and things are not going so good. Why would a bank lend you anything, right? So with an attorney, I think it's a great opportunity for you to reach out to an attorney or to attorneys when things are working, right? Because it allows you that freedom to be able to openly communicate without having this feeling of a knife in your throat that you're trying to figure out, what do I got to do to get paid, right? So it's important for you to start having a relationship with an attorney for a couple of reasons, right? Mainly is to know who to call if something happens, right? And 2 is to kind of understand the laws of the game you're in, right? I know if you follow this show, you probably saw an episode that goes into the understanding the rules of the game you're playing, right? This is a game. Okay, this is why I said leave your emotions at the door. It's a game. Okay, and you have to know where you're at. Okay, what pawn you're going to move, what pawn perhaps you are. Okay, who are you playing? What pawn are you playing? Are you being the one that's getting pushed around and not knowing and just simply reacting, or are you making those decisions, from that higher perspective, right? So again, the idea is to find out your what state you're in, right? Your corresponding state's laws, right? Regarding non-payment, right? Because at this point, following up, you already made the phone call, right? And you sent, emails, and you sent all the invoicing again. And like I mentioned, you had a wonderful conversation, but you're still not paid. Now what, right? At this point, you need to communicate with an attorney, and you need to be real with this attorney. And at this point, what I suggest is for you to have a construction litigation attorney at your disposal. Okay. Meaning that it's someone that you have already spoken to. It's someone that you can openly speak to. Okay. And that you can openly receive feedback from, because sometimes, guess what? Your paperwork may not be in order. Something could have happened and you may have no case, and you need to be able to hear that from someone you trust. At the same time, you need to always also have that person who can tell you, hey, look, you have this, you have this, you have this. This is what I suggest you do. And you feel confident in that suggestion, right? It's going to be extremely important for you to, once again, not go ape shit in these conversations. You need to enter them ready to listen and learn. Why? Because you're in this situation today. You're here for a reason. I don't know what, I don't know why, but you're here for a reason. Listen and learn. The next time something like this occurs, hopefully it will not go down this path again, because you've already learned a lesson that you can implement. Okay? So now the term that I'm going to speak about, which is a term that I was like, at the beginning, was the term that will come up with your attorney is going to be a construction lien, right? And I'm not going to discuss what a construction lien is. That's something for you to just please follow along and do your research and, obviously speak to your attorney and see what that means for you, right? But for me, a construction lien or lien, it was a 4-letter word. It was like, to me, it had so much damaging implications, right? It's like, if I put a lien on this thing, I just destroyed this relationship with this client, right? And I know you may be listening and you're like, what? You're crazy. I'll put a lien right away, blah, 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 and all this stuff. And perhaps you're right. And now this is the way now I'm thinking, yes, of course, you're absolutely right. But you know what? 15 years ago, I didn't think that way, And when the market crashed in '08, I hesitated because I thought I would ruin relationships, and it cost me a lot. Lessons were learned, and since then like everything else, I implement these lessons, right? And this is what has helped me grow and expand, right? So this is why I'm sharing this with you, because I don't know where you're at on your journey, but what I'm trying to explain to you is that you're not the first one to be there, and you're not going to be the last one. Okay? So pay attention to where you're at. There is a lesson there. And remember, there is always an option. You just have to know what that is, and you have to know who to speak to that can provide that option for you, right? So let's just say you've implemented this, this lien. You have to also understand there is an implementation period that, once again, you have to make sure you speak to an attorney and that person can guide you and help you understand what that is, right? While you've done everything you can, it still does not mean that you're going to get paid. Okay. It's reality. You've done the work. You've followed through on everything. And now you've had to, unfortunately, file a construction lien. And what I mentioned before about, ruining a relationship, perhaps, but the lesson that helped me understand was, why be concerned about ruining a relationship when one of the people or person, whatever, in that relationship is not handling their end of the bargain? Why would you even want to work for them anymore? Why would you even want to have a relationship with them? So that's what helped me move past that level of mentality, Realistically, it was a level of lack. All right. So recapping. All right. normal standard basis, invoice, bill, descriptive, and timely manner, right? Follow up, all right? Forget about thinking that you're being a pest. Follow up. All right, that's your normal standard period, right? Things get weird and strange. Get on the phone, get with the decision maker. What's going on? Tell me what I can do. What do you need? Is there something missing? What's happening? Open up that communication once again. Once you do that, you should still seek legal advice and potentially have to get a lien/judgment for whatever the case may be. Do not be concerned with ruining a relationship. Okay? You have to start paying attention to your business and see how this potential relationship could ruin you. All right? See, in business, doing the work is one side of things. And often we are really good at that, right? And we forget to pay attention to that other side, right? Which is what fuels you to do more business, right? I mean, if you don't get paid, why would you be interested in doing more business? So you have to understand everything is a circle, okay? And all parts are important. So understand where you're at in that circle, and it'll help you continue moving forward, right? Pay attention, pay attention, pay attention. There is always a price. The question is, what price are you paying for it? Or what is it actually costing you? All right? As always, thank you for listening. If any of this information you find valuable, hit that subscribe button, as well as remember to share it with anyone that you know needs to hear this. And feel free to comment, and as always, catch you on the next one.